Hey everyone, this is Mike. Today I just want to have a short video on the importance of practicing what you're trying to change in your life. So repetition, consistency, homework. So in cognitive behavioral therapy in particular, much of the work, perhaps most of the work, goes on in between sessions. Now I know in traditional talk therapy, even in psychoanalysis, a lot of the work that goes on is maybe intrapsychic. So it's not that things aren't happening, but usually in a lot of talk therapy, what happens is you'll talk and things get kind of moved around in the unconscious, and that's where the work is done. Which of course doesn't mean that talk therapists and insight therapists, even psychoanalysts, don't recommend behavioral action, going out, meeting people, talking to people. Certainly there's a behavioral and perhaps even a cognitive piece to it. But most of it is you go to a therapist, you sit on the couch for 45 minutes, you talk, and then you go about your life until the next week when you do the same thing over again. In CBT, much, if not most, of the work is done in between sessions. So you're given homework, you're given behavioral activities. If you have some social anxiety, you say hello to a few people. You maybe chit-chat with the cashier or the barista at the coffee shop. Maybe you go to a coffee place or a bar, and maybe you talk to the person there, or just a little chit-chat. And of course, over time, you increase that. But there's things that you actually have to do. There's certain behaviors that you're currently doing that are not working, and you change them. You change those behaviors and you do something different, but you have to do them. You can't just sit there and not change. Same thing with your thoughts. If you're constantly engaged in distortions, dogmatic demands, frustration, intolerance, catastrophizing, global rating, mind reading, fortune telling, overgeneralizing, every single day you want to challenge that tendency that you have to do that. And we all have that tendency. And sometimes when you're really in a state of anxiety or even some despair, it's hard to do that. Right? It's hard to kind of talk positively to yourself. But it's important that you do, because you're trying to change your brain. And repetition and practice is key. So to continually challenge your negative thoughts is really crucial. So making this part of your habit, whether it's in the morning, during lunch, in the evening, before you go to bed, identifying distortions and self-defeating beliefs and just challenging them. Where's the evidence for this? What's an alternative way of looking at this? What is some counter evidence? Just recognizing your mind reading or fortune telling. What would you say to a friend? Am I thinking of this too black and white? Are the shades of gray here? What do I mean by a particular thing? I'm stupid, or I'm not good enough. What do you mean by stupid and not good enough? Let's get specific. So we want to kind of challenge that. I just want to apologize a little. There's been a lot of going on in the street, a lot of noise there, so I had to stop and start this a couple of times. So if it's a little too jumpy, I apologize for that. But it's really the repetition. So make sure that you try to change your thinking patterns. You just, almost by rote, whenever you're feeling a certain way, remind yourself it's not awful and terrible, even though it may be bad. You can stand it, even though it's challenging. You're not a bad person, even if you've done things that you didn't want to do and you wish you hadn't done. There's no reason things should be a certain way, even though you want or prefer them to. You don't know what people are thinking. You can't read their minds. It's very rare that people do everything or nothing, that kind of overgeneralizing. It's very rare that things are one or the other, black and white, good or bad. You're discounting the good that you've done, discounting the positive. If you have perfectionism, nobody's perfect. You may want to be perfect, but there's no reason we have to be. You'd like people's approval, people pleasers. You like people's approval, but you don't need it. You want it, but you don't need it. So just getting into the habit of doing this day in and day out, you start to change your programming. And a lot of people will say, well, wait a minute, come on, but if I'm just saying these things, but I don't really believe them yet, and that's why you try to get evidence. It's not just positive thinking, it's rational thinking, and that's the difference. Because if it's just positive but it's not true, you're not going to believe it. But if it's rational and logical, you will. However, I will remind people, how is it they came to believe their negative beliefs? They believe that with no evidence. People are vicious to themselves. I'm so stupid, I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing. There's little to no evidence to support that, and we have no problem believing that. Right? We have no problem believing the negative thoughts and the negative programming in our brains. But all of a sudden, the rules are different. Well, I need a lot more proof. I need to be serious about this positive stuff, this rational stuff. Yes, you want to argue as strongly as you can, almost like a lawyer arguing. Where's the evidence? What's an alternative? What's some counter evidence? Recognizing you're thinking in a distorted way. But even if you just go through the motions and challenge this on a daily basis, over time, you start to change how you feel. So you're changing your thoughts and you're changing your behavior. If you do that, there was a book I think written a while ago, do one thing different, right? If you just do one thing, you think differently, you act differently. That one change can make a difference. So just keep practicing, repetition, consistency, trust in the process. You're changing habits, you're changing how you're programming how your brain thinks, and you had years and years of thinking the way you're doing now and what you're doing now. So you're just making a change. Every day, do a little bit, and over time, you start to build up and change the negative programming and start to think in a more rational, logical, and usually more positive. But it's not positive thinking, but it is a more positive way. Hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.